Do you feel like it's gatekeepers in hip hop?
Gatekeepers in the music industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, depending on what part of the industry you're trying to get access to, there's gatekeepers.
I know what be going on behind the scenes. I know who not really in control. You know what I mean? I know the real. You know, a lot of times people be blinded by what they see in these videos and on TV, but I just know. I know what I know, man. You know what I mean? So
and
it's just
Kendrick don't deserve this, and I'm seeing this.
We just got hit with one of the wildest bombshells in hip-hop, and it's coming straight from Dee-1 and Lil Flip. Word on the streets is there are secret gatekeepers running this whole game like a chessboard, deciding who gets pushed, who gets buried, and what kind of messages flood our culture. Dee-1 didn't hold back. He said these so-called new street rappers are nothing but pawns in a bigger, darker plan. The way he broke it down, labels and execs handpick which voices rise while shutting down the ones that speak truth, preach integrity, or promote faith. Instead, they push the ones bragging about chaos, drugs, and fast money. It's like the system's promoting destruction on purpose. Then Lil Flip came through swinging even harder. He claimed that some powerful industry figures tried to pressure him into doing a spiritual cleansing just to stay in favor. But Flip said no. And that's when he started questioning what kind of power really runs this music world. Because once you connect his story to Dee-1's warning about spiritual manipulation, it stops sounding like business and starts sounding like control. Now think about that for a second. If all this is true, what does that really make the music industry? A business or something way darker? Be honest. Do you really believe artists like Kendrick or Nipsey walk through this machine untouched? Dee-1 laid out the whole blueprint of how this system works. He said these labels don't just discover talent, they recruit it strategically. They're hunting for young, hungry rappers from the streets, full of fire, but still green enough not to know the rules. And once they're signed, the system starts reshaping them into little symbols of chaos. And Lil Flip, he backed that up. He said they take every wild trait those artists already got and turn the volume up all the way. They glorify the violence, they promote the drama, and they make sure the message stays messy. Toxic flexing, non-stop street drama, that's the gold mine for these labels. They flip raw street energy into something packaged, polished, and ready to sell to the masses.
So it's just a lot of people, man, that's just, you know, selling their soul and selling themselves short and distracted with the wrong things. So, you know, it is what it is, man. This industry is a very evil industry. It's a lot of rappers that sold their soul and, you know, they let money dictate everything they do.
Dee-1 broke it down like a science experiment. These labels target artists who already carry that wild energy, then groom them to make it profitable. It's not growth, it's manipulation dressed up as opportunity. But here's the twisted part. This cycle just keeps feeding itself. One street rapper turns into 10, 10 turns into a whole generation of mini clones following the same script. These young artists mimic exactly what the gatekeepers want. The sound, the look, the chaos, everything that sells. It's not about building culture or giving artists a voice, it's about control. The gatekeepers know the game inside out. They snatch up the influence that comes from the streets, flip it, twist it, and then sell it right back as entertainment, while the same communities that birth that energy pay the price. Fame, followers, and quick money are just the bait, a flashy trap that keeps young artists spinning in circles while the industry cashes out big.
Yes, industry plans exist, yes. The music industry will conspire to say, what this artist represents is something that we need more of in America. So if it's extreme ignorance, if it's watered down blackness, if it's whiteness that represents being able to be cool and be accepted by black people, whatever it is, we want more of that. So we will do everything in our power to make this person pop off and be a star.
And Dee-1's warning hits extra hard right here. He said the second you start spreading positivity, the system shuts down on you. The industry only lets a tiny number of conscious rappers stay visible, and that's by design. According to Dee-1, when artists like Kendrick or J. Cole break through, execs literally say, we got enough of them. Can you believe that? That alone tells you everything about how these gatekeepers operate. They don't want too many voices preaching unity, spirituality, or real empowerment because that wakes people up, and an aware audience, that's dangerous to their control. So instead, they keep a tight cap on positive artists and flood the rest of the market with chaos, the kind that sells quick but destroys slow. And if you really look deeper, this connects straight to Nipsey Hussle's entire movement. He wasn't just a rapper, he was a builder. He owned his masters, his brand, his store, his message, everything. That right there is real independence. Nipsey wasn't just rapping about the grind, he was living it. He preached self-ownership, community wealth, and spiritual freedom. All the things that terrify the gatekeepers. Because once artists start owning their minds, their money, and their message, the system loses its grip. And when it comes to Kendrick Lamar, he's on a whole different level. He didn't just escape the gatekeepers, he outsmarted them. Kendrick never needed trends, clout, or fake validation to move the culture. He built his lane brick by brick, fueled by truth, reflection, and purpose. Every bar, every beat, it's all intentional. Kendrick's message has always been that real change starts from within and then it spreads like fire. That's why his music hits so deep. It's not just sound, it's soul and strategy. When To Pimp a Butterfly dropped, it wasn't just an album, it was a whole movement. He turned pain into poetry, made self-love revolutionary, and gave a generation music that still echoes years later. While most rappers flex their chains, Kendrick was breaking his, turning them into metaphors for liberation. He proved you can stay conscious, keep your morals, and still dominate charts. That kind of success makes gatekeepers nervous. Now with his label PG Lang, Kendrick's pushing independence even further, building a creative home where freedom comes first. So when people talk about artists escaping the system's control, Kendrick isn't just an example, he's the blueprint. Proof that you can move the culture forward, keep your integrity, and still win big your own way. At the end of the day, Dee-1, Kendrick, J. Cole, and Nipsey all represent the same spirit, rebellion with purpose. They don't just talk about success, they redefine what it means, and that's exactly why the system keeps trying to box them in. Because when too many artists start thinking like Nipsey or Kendrick, the industry's whole structure starts to crack.
I ain't participating in no bullshit. If it ain't righteous, I don't want to be a part of it, man. I'm not gonna snake my people.
But here's where it gets darker. Because according to Lil Flip, he saw firsthand what happens when the system stops playing fair. People literally showed up at Lil Flip's house talking about a spiritual cleansing. But Flip made it clear this wasn't about prayer or faith. This was straight up manipulation wrapped in spiritual language. He said the whole vibe felt off from the jump, like they were trying to tap into something way deeper than music. It wasn't about healing, it was about control. Flip connected that moment to a much bigger pattern, how certain artists end up selling their souls for fame. And no, he wasn't speaking in metaphors. He meant these artists trade their morals, their integrity, and even their peace of mind just to stay in favor with the system. It's that same cycle that teaches fame over family, money over morals, and power over peace. The industry dresses it up like success, but behind the scenes, it's really submission. That whole cleansing talk starts sounding less like spirituality and more like initiation. When you really think about it, artists are told it's about growth, about unlocking their true potential. But in reality, it's about giving up control, one compromise at a time, piece by piece, until there's nothing left that's real. Flip wasn't having it though. He stood his ground and walked away. But that raises the question that nobody wants to ask. If Flip said no, how many others said yes? Dee-1 backed this up too. He said when the industry came knocking with deals, they didn't just offer cash or fame. Those contracts came with conditions. The gatekeepers made it crystal clear. Real success meant playing by their rules, whether physically or spiritually.
Sexy Red is not successful to me. She is...
What?
She is a slave to the image of being successful.
They wanted him to go along, to be part of things that went against everything he believed in, and that's when he broke it all down. There are two types of gatekeeping running this game. The first one is the obvious kind, the flashy contracts, the shady deals, the do this or lose that conversations. That's the part the public sees. But the second kind, that's the sneaky one. When they quietly tell artists to dim their light, to tone down their message, to stop speaking truth, to stop talking about God or calling out the system. That's the gatekeeping you can't see, but it's the most dangerous kind. That right there, that's the silent manipulation that kills authenticity from the inside out. That's exactly what Dee-1 was warning about.
Kind of like, it's been a lot of, excuse my French, it's been a lot of pulling, you know what I'm saying? Right. A lot of kissing, a lot of, you not keeping it real with the people who keep it real with you, you know what I mean? Like.
And it's the same energy Lil Flip exposed too. Both of them painted the same picture, an industry that turns fame over family into a twisted moral code, a system that makes artists trade loyalty, love, and even peace of mind for the illusion of success. It's wild because when you really look at it, they're both describing the same trap, just from different corners of the game. This isn't just about shady managers or one-sided contracts. This is about control. Control over artists' energy, their message, and their influence. Basically, control over the soul of hip-hop itself. And the scariest part, when too many artists dim their light, the whole culture goes dark.
But if you are representing something positive or something righteous or something intellectual or godly, you absolutely have to do way more work to make the industry say, all right, we're gonna let them in.
Lil Flip lived that nightmare firsthand. The second he refused to play by their rules, everything stopped. No radio spins, no interviews, no label support. It was like his whole career got put on pause overnight. One day he was everywhere. The next day it was like he vanished. That's not bad luck, that's punishment. Flip broke it down. In this game, it's not about how hard you hustle or how talented you are. It's about whether you nod your head and go along with the plan. The second you question it, they make sure you disappear. It's a silent warning to every other artist watching. Fall in line or fade out. Dee-1 went through the same thing. He said the moment you refuse to compromise, they start deleting you. Not physically, but digitally. You stop getting playlist placements, blogs ignore you, and suddenly nobody in the industry returns your calls. It's not random, it's a systemic erasure, a calculated move to make resistance look like failure. That's how the game keeps its grip. It doesn't just reward obedience, it punishes rebellion. That's the real blueprint they don't talk about. But the thing is, even when you get erased, the truth never really dies. It just goes underground, waiting for the next fearless artist to dig it back up and speak it loud. And Lil Flip, he wasn't about to let them silence him. When the system tried to block his voice, he didn't beg for a seat back at their table. He built his own. He flipped the script, literally. Instead of chasing labels, he launched Clover G Records and started putting out music straight to the people. No middlemen, no gatekeepers, no limits.
With them people that used to buy verses from me, I used to give them a copy of my book, Don't Let the Music Industry Fool You. And in there, I teach them and guide them on how to deal with the music industry.
And guess what? It worked. Flip stayed paid, stayed relevant, and most importantly, he stayed himself. He proved you don't have to sell your soul to stay successful. That independence gave him something the industry could never fake. Freedom, creative control, financial ownership, and peace of mind. That's the kind of success that no gatekeeper can take away. Other independent artists started following that same blueprint, building communities instead of chasing contracts, and fan bases instead of begging for gatekeeper approval. They turned followers into supporters and supporters into legacy. That's the real balance. Hope mixed with warning. Independence shows you can still win without losing your soul, but the dark side never stops calling, promising fast fame and shiny lies to anyone willing to trade their peace for attention. See, independence isn't the easy road, but it's the only one where your art, your spirit, and your legacy cross that finish line intact. When you line up Kendrick, Nipsey, Dee-1, and Lil Flip, the picture becomes crystal clear. These aren't just rappers, they're truth tellers who refuse to play by the industry's dirty rules. Lil Flip used to literally hand out books teaching artists how to beat the system and win on their own terms. Kendrick broke through by using his voice to wake people up, not just sell records. Nipsey showed how to own your brand, your masters, and your message, all while reinvesting that power back into his own community. And Dee-1, he ripped the curtain wide open, showing how the gatekeepers pick who shines and who gets silenced. Each one of them stood tall, kept their morals intact, and built their empires without bowing down. Lil Flip turned down weird offers that could have cost him everything, and still stayed solid. These four represent everything the system fears. Artists who think for themselves. When Dee-1 said the industry only allows a few conscious rappers at the top, that line hit different, because deep down, they know once truth, unity, and spiritual growth start spreading through the culture, control crumbles. That's why they keep flooding the game with chaos and distraction. They need people too busy fighting to ever start thinking. But Kendrick and Nipsey brought a different kind of energy. They were about building, not breaking, about purpose, not profit. They proved you can drop hits, touch lives, and still stay true to who you are. But once you start shining with that kind of light, the system does what it always does. It tries to dim you, silence you, erase you from the conversation. Because when too many voices start speaking truth, the power shifts, and that scares them more than anything. So now the question is, if Dee-1 and Lil Flip are both telling the truth, how deep does this thing really go? Is this just about music, or are we talking about mind control on a cultural level? Drop your thoughts in the comments because I need to hear what you think about this one. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss another deep dive like this. And as always, see you in the next one.